Hello, welcome back to another episode of Xbox Infinite. This is going to be an absolutely fantastic. We've got a late edition guest to the show, and I'm going to jump straight in because we got a lot of people in this week, so I don't want to drag the show out too long. But Colt, welcome back. How you doing, man?
Good. I mean, it's not even a show. Like, I hang out with you guys all the time on Xbox Chat, so we're just doing Xbox Chat today. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome that you came along, man. Really appreciate it. Dude, Cutie, how you doing? How's your week? What have you been playing?
Hey, what's up, everyone? Oh my goodness, what a massive week it has been. Thank you so much, Cole, for jumping in. And also Garuda, you know I love you both. Yes, this week has been really kind of low-key for me. I did play a little bit more of The Crew. I did play a little bit of Diablo. I looked on Game Pass, had a look at a few titles there. But yeah, it's been a really chill week and I can't wait to chat with you all.
And you may have noticed we have another guest who I came to last because he's become a traitor to the Xbox Nation. Garuda Intruder, welcome back to the show.
Come on, man. I'm on Game Pass right now. How am I a traitor? Hey, it's an ecosystem, man. It isn't a console. Xbox is everywhere, bro. Yeah, no, thanks for having me, bro. Yeah, but it's true. I no longer own an Xbox. Yeah, I've joined the PC Master Race, and I sold all my consoles to help fund the bloody thing. And Todd Howard's vision has been one very expensive exercise for me. So, yeah, I'm ready for Starfield. I'm still having some teething issues, as you guys know. I have never been a PC-centric guy. But, yeah, look, we're having some teething problems. It's definitely not plug and play like our beloved Xbox, but man, the games are incredible. I've been dabbling in a ton of different games, and what I'm doing is I'm going back to some of the games that I've played in the past that probably didn't look the best, and I'm seeing the massive jump. I'd finished Rise Son of Rome at 4K 120 FPS with all the settings turned up, and let me tell you,
Master Race, sorry, I was
hear me out, man. That game needs on console. It needs a current gen upgrade. That looks better than 95% of games that are released today. It's incredible what they done 10 years ago with that game, man. But I'm playing everything at the moment, and the PC's made me remember how much I used to love RTS games. I've been sinking a heap of time into Command and Conquer and Age of Empires, and also I can play Warhammer 40k Darktide now, man. Like this, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I really am.
I'm jealous about that, mate.
Rub it in. Look, how's the Xbox? Have you got the Xbox party sorted yet, though?
No, so I can be in an Xbox party and talk to you guys, but as soon as I try and play a game, I sound like a robot from like 1979, or I don't know, man. I can't do it. So the Bluetooth connection can't handle it. So I'm trying to track down one of the Xbox wireless adapters, right, for my Xbox headset, which evidently
all you need is a Bluetooth antenna. You need a Bluetooth antenna. They're $8. They're a little they're about 3 or 4 inches. There's 2 of them, and it screws into the back of your PC, and it will allow your Bluetooth earbuds or whatever headset to run a few feet. I had the same problem when I started doing podcasting with earbuds. So you just need a strong signal for the back of your PC. So go on Amazon and look them up.
Right.
Also, I love on PC this. Like everybody's like, oh, it's great, just play on the couch. I love that when I hit the Xbox button that will bring up the Xbox PC overlay. Depending on what game you're playing, it will pop up in the background and you'll never be able to see it. You'll never be able to go and get a party invite. You can't access screen record or screen cap, depending on how the game launches, like Windows borderless, full screen.
Yep.
It's a mixed bag. And I've been playing PC games on and off this spring and fall or summer. Like I played Redfall on the darn PC because of how it was on Xbox. And you just continually remind yourself that PC's amazing if you want to spend double. Yep. And if you want to spend 2 to 4 times the time getting everything to work like it should on a console. But yeah, you get those great frames.
Yeah, I'm playing it on my couch, and you're right. That the Xbox app for PC, they've got a lot of work to do with that. Look, it's fantastic. Games play well, but you are constantly looking for things. Things just sometimes don't work. Downloads crash. I was getting like 10 kilobytes a second downloads for no reason.
No,
on the Xbox PC store?
Yeah, I was having a lot of problems. But that's all fixed now. I just need to get that audio. Colt, sorry, I don't want to make this intro long-winded, but the little antenna, bro.
It's already happened.
I've got two of those antennas you speak of screwed into the back.
They
of
probably
my
came
PC.
with your.
They
yeah.
did, but I don't know what they do, and they're not helping. So
you look back there, and it looks like I don't want to date myself, but it looks like a coaxial, like a silver circular thing, and you thread it on there. You screw it on there a few times, and then you stick the little rabbit ears up, and then you have like several feet of distance. Otherwise, it was like crackling. I was doing my podcast like the first month, and I switched to the earbuds instead of the big headphones, and people are talking like that. I'm like, what in the world's going on? And I realized
that's me. Everybody's complaining and yelling at me, but as soon as I stop playing a game, it works fine. But I was told that the Xbox wireless adapter will fix my issues, but what I'm getting at is Xbox doesn't sell those separately anymore. You have to buy a controller with that bundled in, and I don't want to do that. So I'm waiting. I'm trying to track one down from multiple dodgy sources.
Xbox is all about options. We're going to continue with the intros. For the longest intro. Infinite Umbra, welcome back to PC Infinite. How you doing? How's your week been? What have you been up to? Oh, Xbox.
Yes, Infinite. PC Master Race. No, I'm good, man. It's been a decent week. Had a decent show the other day, despite having very little to talk about. But myself and Danny, we talked about a lot of stuff. And, you know, Colt, you did say something that actually inspired me the other day, because I had mentioned to you, Colt, what do I talk about when we have such little news? And you were like, well, you know, we started talking about pizza and stuff. I'm like, oh, you know what? Why don't we just vamp and talk about things that we're enjoying outside of whatever, right? And it just so happened to pop up that we were talking about wrestling for a while. And literally, that went on for about 40 minutes. I kid you not. And I felt bad a bit for the audience because not everybody liked it, you know, and we weren't intentionally trying to fluff the show up or anything like that. It just happened that way, right? But it flowed out really nicely, and like a lot of people were actually feeling the conversation because we did have some wrestling heads in there. But
What?
yeah, man.
What'd you call it? Wrestling.
Wrestling. Yes. Yeah, man. I started reflecting back on some old stuff, you know, more nostalgia for me, because I haven't watched any of the newer wrestling, but you know, Stone Cold, The Rock, stuff like that. Even stuff older than that, possibly. And Danny, he knows a lot more about the newer stuff, AEW and things like that. But it was like a real good conversation. And so, yeah, we had that, and then we talked about a few other things and a news roundup and stuff like that. But it worked out pretty nice. As far as gaming, man, I've been playing what you're playing, Risk, Remnant 2. I'm enjoying it. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I feel it the way quite to the level that Pete and maybe her, like, not what's his name, Bushido, are feeling it, but I am liking it. You know, I did carry them the other day. I don't want to make sure I mention that because I got that recorded, you know, where I saved them when they died and I took care of the boss all by my lonesome. I made sure to play that during the, you know, during the podcast.
Did you clip it and post it on Twitter, like when I shot Pete and teabagged him for about 10 minutes?
I saw both you and him get a revenge on each other. Oh, by the way, he attempted to take me down, and I took him down the same. So yes, it was very much like a Halo time. But yeah, no, I actually had it during the podcast. I had it played loop twice, and Bushido was like, "You playing it again?" So that was fun. But I was going to say, speaking of that, the whole Bluetooth thing, I remember I asked a while back, Coke, because I noticed you didn't have the over the head, you know, earmuff type headsets on when you were podcasting once, and I'm like, how is he talking and hearing? And I said, hey, what type of earbuds are you using? And he's like, your Bluetooth such and such. I forgot what the brand was, but I had bought me some Galaxy Bud 2s. Now, I connected them to my computer. It said it was connected, but then when I put them on to listen to it, nothing. So you think I need to get that, what you were talking about too, even though I have Bluetooth already in my computer? I need to buy that.
Yeah, I would recommend them to both of you. Even if you could have got the wireless adapter, but if you buy the Bluetooth antennas, it'll help for all of your things. It's freaking tech support podcast.
It is.
But I think
Someone help me, man.
yeah. I'm trying to keep it as interesting as possible. Ace from Game On Daily, who's super handsome, he was like, Colt, this is your problem. You need to plug in that antenna. And I was like, oh, and I ordered one. And, 2 days shipping from Amazon. I go out my garage in my box where I got my PC, wherever. Anyway, thing was sitting in there. I already had the antennas that came with my PC. And I ordered one anyway because I didn't realize. But it stopped the problem completely. So it's probably just a good idea. For $8, whatever you connect there, it's just going to give it really strong signal. And welcome to the podcast of Bluetoothness.
The PC Tech Support Podcast. I got to move on to this is the longest intros of all time. I got to move on to JediKnightPete. Welcome back. What have you been playing as your week been? And then we'll get into topics.
I am on a Remnant 2 kick. I love when games bring the community together, and me, Bushido, Umbra, Riskit, Monad, Mac, KY Bobby, all playing Remnant 2, having a great time, absolutely loving it. Yeah, I won't take up anyone's time. Welcome, Colt. Welcome, Garuda. Let's do this.
Absolutely. Look, I want to jump straight into the first topic, and the first topic is something I got to play. Unfortunately, the guys on the panel won't be able to hear it, but I have linked it in the Discord, so if you want to hear it, it's in there. But this happened earlier in the week.
Call of Duty, they have this deal. Will remain multi-platform, but I fully expect everything else is going to be Xbox exclusive. Any kind of new Spyro, Crash game, whatever, those will be Xbox exclusive. And I gotta say, it's just so annoying to me that there's this tweet from Phil Spencer about this. He says, "We are pleased to announce that Microsoft and PlayStation have signed a binding agreement to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation following the acquisition of Activision Blizzard." And here's the part. "We look forward to a future where players globally have more choice to play their favorite games."
Is it just me, or
Phil's
can you all
always
not
talking
hear
about
this?
fucking choice. And you know what?
I can't hear it, but I'm
Touche.
watching it.
You bought these
we won't be able
companies
to hear it
for
in real time.
exclusivities. That's fine. That's the way of the business, right? But it was funny because this was the same thing he was saying about Bethesda, and we just learned that behind the scenes, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're actually going to make those all exclusive. We can't say that yet because it's going to be too much of a negative. So we're literally going to say the opposite and lie about it." I don't the acting like you're some kind of like virtuing, like, "Oh, more choices for the players." Just shut up. You're just trying to make it exclusive, and that's totally fine. That's the name of the game in this business. But I don't know. Do you think I'm off base here about like it just comes off incredibly disingenuous after what's just happened with Bethesda, and you acted like, "Oh, well, we're going to treat things on a case by case basis." Like, no, you're not. We know what you were saying on the emails, that you wish there was that email where he's like, "Oh, I wish," maybe it wasn't Phil, and it was another person that was like, "Oh, if only we could just say that these would all be exclusive." It's like, okay,
yeah,
but keep acting like it's all about player choice. It's not. It's about the business, and that's.
Yeah, so look, I know you guys can't hear it. That's why I linked it in the Discord. You can jump off and listen to it. But there's a lot that he sort of said in there that I wanted to sort of unpack. So the first thing was that I sort of took a bit of offense to or didn't really like is that he's sort of pointing out or trying to say that Phil's lying. But at no point has he lied at all to the public. I'm sure they have conversations behind the scenes and they talk about what's going to be exclusive, what's not going to be exclusive. Should we make it all exclusive? Should we make just these exclusive? Those are conversations that you would have as a business. That doesn't mean you're lying when you say to the fans, "Hey, it's going to be a case-by-case basis." Just the fact that they're having those conversations, and we've seen them in the emails from the FTC, it proves that they're having these conversations. It proves the fact that it's a case-by-case basis. Otherwise, there would be no conversation. It would just be everything's exclusive. See you later. Goodbye. There was a lot to unpack there. I don't want to wax lyrical about it too long. I want to get everyone else's thoughts. So, Cole, I mean, I know you saw this through the week. What were your thoughts on Dustin Furman's? I found it odd. I found it weird that he would point to Phil lying when the FTC made it really clear, and it was very obvious that all the way through this entire thing, the last 2 years, Jim Ryan's actually been the one lying about this. We want to block the deal. We don't care about COD. We don't need COD.
No, I mean, Jim Ryan was telling the truth there. I mean, that's what he wanted, and he just was not being very helpful to the industry or to consumers. It's kind of a little bit of anti-consumer posturing there from Jim Ryan, but I really like Dustin Furman, and he usually is more quiet during the long rants that Colin has, and I've said many times that Colin is a very smart person. I just fear that Colin Moriarty doesn't understand, or he's not well informed about where Xbox is and where they're going. So what happens is Dustin and Colin's comments here, mostly Dustin's here, are really illustrating the old 10 6 to 10 year old mantra where we live in this walled garden, and when you buy a console, you get this special treatment that only you get and no one else gets. Like you're in this special $400 or $500 country club, this one-time purchase of a PlayStation, where Dustin has proven here that he doesn't understand that Xbox isn't a walled garden, that when a game comes out on Xbox, it doesn't mean it's only on the console on the piece of plastic. So that's what I think is inherently wrong with his rant here. All of his complaints go out the window because Phil told the truth. You're getting more choice and more flexibility. If only a few ABK games are exclusive going forward, they will still be able to reach more people because as handhelds become more popular and as cloud does better, and because ABK is actually starting to bring games to Nintendo, just because you pull something off of PlayStation doesn't mean you're they're not going to reach 3 billion gamers, but you'll leave out PlayStation, but you're still giving people more choice. Anybody who buys the next Spyro, let's just say a Spyro exclusive comes out, anyone who buys that has the opportunity to buy that on whatever platform in the Xbox ecosystem. They can pick that up on Xbox console, PC, Rogue Ally, Steam Deck, or cloud and pick up right where they left off. And no one is allowing you to do that, where you can play almost on any device, pick up and play where you left off on other devices or whichever device you're happy playing on. The problem with Dustin's comment, so I can close up my long-winded thing here, is that he is still stuck in the PlayStation is not getting a game. And I would just have to break it to Sacred Symbols. I'm sorry, Sacred Symbols, but PlayStation does not obligatory get every single game that's ever made. They are going to miss the games. It's one piece of plastic. That's just how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. But on Xbox through the Xbox One generation, we missed a lot of games. And this is just I found it really hypocritical of him to look at it from. But I mean, I get it. He loves that ecosystem. I think I've heard him saying he doesn't like to play anywhere else but on PlayStation. So I can understand that he's upset that he's lost all these ABK games. But then wouldn't you be upset at Jim Ryan for not signing that deal earlier on where he could have had access to the ABK games? Now he's lost out. He's only got COD. Umbra, look, I did want to get your take on this because we didn't get a chance to talk through the week, which we normally do. Did you get a chance to check out the clip?
Yeah, I did. I saw it actually when it went live the first time. My buddy Paul posted it. Yeah, I mean, Colt covered it, but I think you're being nicer than I would about it. I think they know exactly what they're doing, and I think Colin, for as intelligent as he is, he knows exactly what the situation is with Xbox and their modus operandi, as they would say. He knows they're not doing the traditional model. He knows that they have to grab studios the way they do and to keep exclusives walled off, just like PlayStation does, to bring people to the ecosystem. He knows that. He understands that. This guy here that was doing all of this complaining, he made no sense, really. It sounded like something you'll hear the typical.
It was a tantrum.
Yeah, pretty much. And you'll hear our typical Hoove brothers say that on Twitter or whatever it may be. And, and it's hypocritical too. So my thing, like I said, I think it's illogical because at the end of the day, much as if we would want it to, play PlayStation exclusives, the same thing applies here. And if Phil's saying what he said, you have a choice. He said the guy was basically saying Phil is a liar and that he's trying to sound magnanimous, basically. But Phil, I had someone else actually challenged me on that, and he was actually an Xbox guy, and he was like, "Well, he's right, he has a point." I think he said. And he said Phil wasn't honest. He said Phil should just be honest. I said Phil has been honest. I said he said the games coming to other platforms would be on a case-by-case basis. It's not like he's going to just give them everything. He still has a responsibility to his platform and his company to bring people to Game Pass, to bring people to the platform. So if he's going to be able to do that, he's going to have to keep some of these bigger titles. And Phil can say what he wants, that he wants gaming everywhere for everyone, and still hold that responsibility true. Two things can be true at the same time. So I just thought it was silly for him to say that, and especially that he's a PlayStation fan. Like, come on.
Yeah, and
that makes no sense.
In the world. It's
Yeah.
not just black and white.
I wanted to actually ask Jedi a question to kind of steer with this topic. One of the common complaints, Pete, is that Phil lied about what he was going to do with exclusive, especially with Bethesda and ZeniMax. Like, we hear this a lot, that they say that Phil said that he was going to bring games to PlayStation, not take them away, and he lied. How do you feel about that, and what's really going on with that?
I think that Phil is really magnanimous when it comes to gaming. I think he wants an open ecosystem where everybody gets to play everything, but I just don't think that's the world we live in. The push from Xbox fans that have, like us, that have backed the console since the original Xbox, we want exclusive games. We are sick of seeing games being taken away from us, third-party deals, payments of parity being made where the Xbox can't play better, and that, unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. I don't think Phil Spencer lied, and I think you summed it up perfectly, where you can play it on the Rogue Ally, you can play it on the PC, you can play it pretty much anywhere, and Dustin Furman's problem is the fact that he can't play it on the PlayStation, and I get that. If a game was taken away from me, I would be upset as well. The reality is Phil runs Xbox. He doesn't run PlayStation. He doesn't run anything else. He has to watch the bottom line of Xbox. The bottom line of Xbox is if the game's is going to be a multiplayer game, I dare say it's going to be on PlayStation to get the number of people playing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be a single player game, a big title, I dare say it'll be exclusive. Just like Starfield's going to be exclusive. And the amount of consoles that are going to be sold due to Starfield, I think is going to blow the industry away.
And that makes sense, right? And when you are taking a game exclusive on Xbox and you're taking a game exclusive on PlayStation, they're two different things. When you take a game exclusive on Xbox, it is available in more places for more people to access. That's not a lie. That's 110% true. You've got,
but they would argue that there's 40 million PS5 owners, so you're losing 40 million people. But that's not the way those numbers work, right?
No.
Final Fantasy 16 was actually really good. The uptake of people that had PlayStation 5s and got the game, I think it was around the 10% figure, which is excellent, really, but that is quite rare. I mean, only games like God of War, The Last of Us do numbers like that.
Yeah, I mean, and exactly to your point, Pete, if it's a multiplayer game, it does make sense to keep it multi-plat. And if it is a single-player game, just like Starfield, it does make sense to bring it exclusive. That's something like I think we saw through the FTC's hearing, where they were comparing losses and figures and MUAs and all that sort of stuff, where it all comes out in the wash, where an exclusive can bring people into Game Pass, and they've got to do that. That has to happen. It's a business. Garuda, I know you got a chance to that. I heard you saying you can't listen to this guy. I completely understand why it's frustrating. But what was your take on Dustin Furman's little tantrum?
It was just that. It was a tantrum. It's the head of, he's got the head of a beaten favorite at the moment. It's a case of the top dog being on top for so long that they think that they can only have, they can only have everything and no one else can have anything kind of situation. Look, it's odd. It's actually hilarious watching what's going down because they never thought things were going to play out this way. However, regarding the comments from Phil saying, we're going to have these games in more places, there's going to be more player choice, more options. He's not lying. But what people have to understand is when Phil speaks that way, he's speaking about his ecosystem, the Xbox ecosystem. Why would he be talking about the PlayStation ecosystem? He's opening doors in multiple different avenues, but he's only closing one, right? It just so happens that he's closing the door to the most established ecosystem, okay? And it's upsetting a lot of people. He's talking about us. He's talking about people who can access his ecosystem, right? And that's what people get so upset about, aka the hooved brethren. There hasn't been any lies. There might have been some twistings of words, but just because it doesn't include one single ecosystem doesn't mean he's lying. There's still more people, even when you take away the PlayStation factor, there's still more gamers that are going to have access to more of Xbox's content, and that's a fact.
Yeah, and the other thing is you sort of got to think about there is it doesn't really block out PlayStation gamers from accessing these games either. You've got
it gives them.
Yeah, you've got
That's
your cloud,
right.
you've got your PC, you've got your.
Right.
There's heaps of avenues into the Xbox ecosystem, and when you look at PlayStation, there is one or maybe two now with PC if you want to wait, but one and one only.
Absolutely. And why are these guys, apart from blatant bias fanboyism, not celebrating this? This should be everything Xbox is doing should be broadly celebrated across the community by virtue of the fact that the low price of entry to access these games is phenomenal. Like, we're not made of money. We're not rich. Like, at the end of the day, you can jump into the Xbox ecosystem and play Starfield as a new subscriber to the Xbox ecosystem for $1. Why are they not celebrating this? If it was on their platform, they'd be paying in our country $129.95 for this game, for one game. Like, come on, man. The only reason they're complaining is because it's not on the plastic box that they've got all their hopes, dreams, wishes, and whatever else weird things tied to.
Weird things,
and
yeah.
you know, I'm sure there's a lot of weird things they do with that console. I don't know. And their leader holds the controller upside down like it's a black snake. And at the end of the day, mate, I'm actually loving these tantrums because we have been getting stomped as Xbox fans, excluded from content for multiple years. The tables are turning, and look, Xbox fans, lap this up. Then these guys, hold up. I'm going to say this. Every podcast I'm listening to lately that regards these sacred symbols guys, they're quick to step out and make a point that, oh, these guys sound quite intelligent. They're well spoken. They're well thought out. They're very smart guys. Do you think that those words are the words of an intelligent person? Someone with a high aptitude for what they're talking about? No way, man. Let's stop with that. These people are nothing but fanboys, and we're here just to laugh at them at this point. So I don't think they're smart at all. I think it's dumb that they pinned all their hopes and dreams on one single plastic box. They're excluding themselves, basically. They're excluding themselves. Phil hasn't lied at all. So I'm just here to watch them cry, actually.
One thing I'd say is just to add to that last part about it,
Jesus,
Garudi,
salt.
you went in on them. I would say I don't think they would be as courteous to us either, by the way. I don't think they're as courteous to the Xbox side,
No, they won't.
personally.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
And you know, at the end of the day, Xbox fans, this is your time. The leadership on your side is putting things in place for you. They're improving the ecosystem for you. They're making it easier to access things. They're making it cheaper. They're giving you everything you probably ever dreamed of. They're not getting that on their side. They're frustrated. They're getting one single type of game for their exclusives. One single genre is all they get. And now that they're pivoting away from that, they're getting games they don't want.
But they support their devs. We don't.
They're getting foam stars. You've got to look at it from the reason, the source of the tension and frustration from these fanboys and these tantrums. You've got to look. They are frustrated. They're not happy with what their side is delivering for them. They are not. And I wouldn't be either. I'm completely out of the PlayStation ecosystem as of last week.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
I was blown away. The reaction when I tweeted out that, they were going to start bringing more Square Enix games to Xbox, and the reaction from the PlayStation guys on Twitter to me were like, they were mad. I'm like, why would you be bothered? Like, this studio doesn't belong to your favorite piece of plastic. Like, this is a weird mentality, like gatekeeping to the ultimate extreme. Like, you don't deserve these games, and how many Final Fantasy games are you going to buy? And I'm like, it does not matter. I buy whatever I want. Like, this is an announcement for people that are excited about whatever Square Enix is making, but that's a whole other conversation we'll get into as well.
Absolutely. We'll definitely jump into that, but I got to jump to Cutie in 2 seconds, but I definitely have to give Garuda one of these.
That's us. Nicely made the ball.
So, Cutie, you obviously saw the Dustin Furman clip. What were your thoughts on Dustin's heavy gatekeeping?
You know what? I think everyone here has said some pretty salty stuff against him.
Sorry.
So I'm really just adding fuel to the fire here. But at the end of the day, like, I kind of think to myself that perhaps they just want to jump on this bandwagon. They want this to be clipped. They want hundreds of thousands of people to see this. They want to be on the PlayStation side, and simply for clout. And I don't think that creators in this space should be doing that in order to get more fans. He is on a podcast that is fan funded. So I think to myself, if anything, he's winning here. Like us discussing it here right now, like he's winning. So I think for the fact of the matter is Sony fans are always a lot more upset. They're always a lot more explosive when things don't go their way. This is a win for Xbox, and I think some people in the community really do have an issue with it, and they're very vocal about it. And I personally, I can't stand the sound of his voice. Like, it makes me
Oh,
drier
yeah.
than a fucking desert. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I just, honestly, so gross. Like, actual ick. Like, legitimately. Like, if this isn't a red flag for all you ladies out there, honestly, like,
Hell
if
yeah.
you are
And
a
you
fan-
do.
I just, look, he's in a position of power. He needs to realize that he needs to speak in that way, and he just doesn't, and he's just ill.
Well,
Gross.
look to Bobby Hawk made a comment. Love Bobby. He's a definite pony. We love you, Bobby. You're here every week supporting us, and we appreciate you. But he said, or maybe they're just wishing that the games would come to PlayStation so they can play it. Not everything needs to be about console wars. People, I just want to play certain games on certain consoles. Yeah, but where was that same energy when all these games are going to PlayStation? That energy was not there. And now that PlayStation fans are losing stuff, they don't like it. And I can understand it. I respect that. But you can't then spin around and just drop the energy you had. And also that sort of came out a little bit this week when PlayStation announced they're going to be putting a certain amount. I didn't actually throw it in the topics, but I found it interesting and sort of related. A certain amount of money into acquisitions. And then there was conversations about, what should they acquire next? I didn't see PlayStation fans saying consolidation of the industry is bad. This shouldn't happen.
No, they were just happy that PlayStation was going to fight fire with fire.
It's
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable that they just will switch up their narrative, switch up their energy. It's absolutely lacks integrity to me. And look, I will say that I won't go too hard because I do.
More risk, I think, is what happened with Tomb Raider when Xbox got exclusivity of that franchise. I think the whole community, the media, just banded up and attacked Xbox for doing what PlayStation had done for years and continue to do so.
Yeah, it's like a referee versus reaction sort of thing. Like they haven't seen the aggressor, they've just ignored the aggressor, and they've only seen the retaliation, and they react really, really strange. Some of these people out there on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. But look, we've got to move on to the next topic. Before I do, please hit the like button if you've been here supporting us and you are subscribed. If you're new, we go live Friday, 8 p.m. EST. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll move into the next topic. Ratchet & Clank. The SSD, the magical SD. I mean SSD. Are we talking about the Steam Deck or are we talking about the PlayStation? Look, this I found quite interesting as well. Everyone seemed to get upset. And there's a bit of a conversation about whether Insomniac lied. So my take on this is I went through, I watched the video again. I understand the context, and a lot of people were talking about context. And you've really got to look at the marketing here. And what it was is marketing. That's a scripted video. It wasn't an interview. It wasn't off the cuff. It was planned. They said what they said, and they meant what they said. And they did say that it couldn't be done without PlayStation 5's SSD. A quick edit of that wording could have avoided all this. All they needed to say was couldn't be done without an SSD, which, in fact, we've seen it proven now that it can. I think if you watched Oh No, It's Alex... this video, he proved pretty definitively. I think there was a hang up for less than a second, and then it moved straight into the next world. So, I mean, I have to say, like, they knew what they were saying, and they did lie. I think this is a flat out lie. Garuda, I'm going to jump to you again.
Oh, yeah.
Easy on the salt.
No way. I'm tipping the whole Himalayan pink rock salt on these dudes, man.
I do have to ask, what do you think? Do you think Insomniac knew what they were doing? Do you think they lied? Do you think it was a purposeful marketing beat to sort of bring in? And as well, you've got to think of the backdrop. That's one other thing. that I tried to sort of convey, which is hard to do on Twitter. People don't understand things, but is they were aware of this hype for PlayStation's SSD. And I know when I buy a PC, I'll be walking into the shop, won't be worrying about a GPU, won't be worrying about my CPU. I'll just be looking for the strongest SSD I can find, right? But they knew there was a lot of hype going on around the SSD, and they played into it. I think this is their own fault. Garuda, do you think that they deserve all the smoke they're getting online?
Oh, absolutely they do. And if you think I'm going to hold back on these dudes today, that's not going to happen. But hang on, I'll preface this with telling you that the joke's on me. I fell for this. I had a PlayStation 5 at the time. I was pining for some current gen only games, and I loved this game. It was still visually the most impressive game. You know, I mean, fundamentally it probably was pretty basic, but visually it was the most impressive game that I've probably played yet this generation. I fully bought into the whole, you know, warping into the portals, needing that PlayStation SSD. I was on board with that. Joke's on me, isn't it? Huh? Look at this. Look at this. Insomniac, if you go back through their history, they have a history of fabricating the truth from bullshit, really, and they're fully on board with pushing that sort of odd narrative that you need a PlayStation. They'll come out and say things like, this game will never come to this platform, and it does. Or just buy a PlayStation and you don't have to. Or you need an SSD, the powerful PlayStation SSD, and you don't need it. Look at this, man. Look at this. There is nothing the PlayStation is doing that the Xbox or any other platform with similar specs can do. It's not bespoke hardware. This is not the PS3 generation anymore, where you have the cell processor and all these kind of bespoke hardware that no other platform can do. It's not like that anymore. These things, by the sum of their parts, are basically just PCs now. The narratives for the PlayStation
I knew
guys.
you'd throw in something about a PC. I knew it was coming.
No. Well,
Damn
well,
PC
essentially
fan.
that's what these things are, though, and we know that. Like, there is nothing. Because they tried to lean into this generation, Sony did, with telling us how important or bespoke their hardware is. But it's proven that there's nothing that this system can do that can't be done elsewhere. It's another narrative that's crumbling, okay? It's a load of crap, and it's hilarious. It's validating to see what's going on. I mean, watching this thing run on a Steam Deck, like a 1.6 teraflop Steam Deck, without even having an SSD or whatever. It's hilarious, you know, and at the end of the day, they're just making themselves as a platform look even more silly. They're talking about Phil Spencer lying. How come they're not jumping on their own guys about this? I mean, Talk about double standards. That's a lie. That's a blatant lie. You know, and at the end of the day, man, we're going to see more of this as the tide continues to turn. We're going to see more of this narratives continue to crumble, and like I said before in the previous topic, all you Xbox guys, and most of you are Xbox guys, this is an Xbox podcast, who have been waiting for your time, who have been sick of getting kicked in the guts, stomped on, day in, day out, generation after generation. This is your time. Look at this. Look at what's going on around you. Sony sucks. PlayStation's dying.
Jeez.
So that's what's going on.
He wasn't lying. He was going to go, I got to get that spicy meatball thing up again. But yeah, look, I can understand the context of what he was saying. And he did. And look, Bobby, in the chat there, I'll throw this in. In the context prior to them talking about the SSD, they did say we couldn't have done this on older gen hardware. We can only achieve this with the PlayStation 5's SSD. But I mean, then you've got the Quantum Error guys. This is sort of part of the topic that I want to sort of meld in. We've got the Quantum Error guys saying that the Xbox's SSD is hindering development, and they're going to release on PlayStation 5. I can't believe that this narrative is still going on, Colt. You said
it was too slow.
It's weird.
And then somebody squeezed out of him, well, what if you use direct storage? He's like, oh, then it'd be fine. I'm like, but that's literally what, they've got this raw input-output speed on the Series X that is coupled with direct storage and BC Pack. These features that Jason Ronald's team put together specifically for this hardware that devs are supposed to use to get the great speed out of what they have. And he was just like, I guess the raw speed of the SSD of the PS5 is much faster, and it's got this Kraken architecture that I don't understand that just makes it really, really fast. And on paper, it's 2 times faster, but then Digital Foundry breaks it down and goes, Well, why is every game loading a second faster on the Series X when it has half the speed? Like, that doesn't add up. But I want to play devil's advocate. I want to be the pepper to Garuda's salt and say that when Insomniac says we couldn't do this without the speed of the power or whatever they said, we couldn't do this without the speed of the PS5 SSD, they're 1000% correct. They feel that way, that they were able to do everything they wanted to do in the game because the PS5 didn't have a 5400 or 7200 RPM mechanical hard drive. Things were unleashed where they were able to get in and out of areas or make areas bigger and more connected because of an SSD. And so I'll play the devil's advocate and say that they're making a claim, just like any of us would make a claim about what makes something so great. But when you get it down to the technicality and you take it to Superior Court and you lay everything out and you say, but what about this? What about the Steam Deck? Or what about an SD card? Then yeah, it could run on older hardware. The problem with Ratchet and Clank, as beautiful it is, I agree with Garuda, it's one of the great looking games of the entire generation so far. That game is basically Ratchet and Clank 2016 with a really nice, yes, mechanically. It's got visual flourishes and has a lot of stuff going on above in the sky that looked fantastic. Unfortunately, the game wasn't as fun as I thought it would be. I thought last 2016's was a better game. That game is totally built on the foundation of a PS4 title. It's really could have been a cross-generation game. And now we're seeing, could it have run at a lower quality or with, at 30 frames on a PS4 Pro? Absolutely. On a PS4, it might have been pretty rough. I mean, I don't know. But
that's the biggest thing for me. I think it could have run on the PS4 just fine.
Colt, you just went into bat for them. You said you were going to be devil's advocate, and then you ended up slamming him just like I did.
No, I mean, I just don't buy into it's a lie. I just think we all do this thing where we say, this like if you say the Coalition games are so amazing, like they're some of the best graphics from studios around, someone is going to pick that statement apart ad nauseum and not let you take it further than one tweet. It's just how people are. And the technicality of it.
Sorry, but I mean, like, I get that you're going to be devil's advocate here, and it's good for the conversation. But if it wasn't a lie, Cole, then why is it running on HDDs?
Well, he did explain. He did explain that in their opinion that's what they feel.
That's their opinion, but their opinion's just
that's their opinion. So my thing about it is bigger than that. If I was going to play devil's advocate, I would say this is not necessarily on Sony, though they didn't correct that mistake. That was really on Marcus Smith, the creative director. That's what I would have said. But at the same time, it goes back to Sony because they've gotten caught in a few lies now that over time that we've all been made aware of, that we believe in generations and such, so that's the bigger thing for me. The biggest thing for me is the fact that we know that this game could have run on a PS4, and they let us to believe and let people to believe, no, you can only get this on PS5, you can only play it on PS5, to push people to buy a PS5.
There you go.
That's why I dislike it. You know what I mean? Because it's the same thing with their controller situation. Oh, you can't play your Dual Shock on this. You have to get a DualSense. Then it can't work. Vice versa. I thought that's pretty trash. I think honestly, I think that's crappy too. So to me, it's a lot of consumer unfriendly options that's the thing I dislike about it.
I don't blame them, but I mean, Insomniac was picked up by Sony for a very good price, I might add, in 2019. Their job was to sell PS5 consoles. The narrative at the start of the generation was the Xbox more powerful, the most powerful console in the world. We know that the GPU was more powerful. Everyone was prompting the 12 teraflops machine. But the advantage that the PlayStation had was the SSD. They played into that narrative as Insomniac, and it's what they're meant to do. I mean, their job is to sell PlayStation 5s. Ratchet and Clank was said to be only available on PlayStation because of that SSD. And I looked up an article, and it says Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart on PC is for all intents and purposes unplayable without an SSD, experts have revealed. Well, whoever that expert is, he should be fired. But yeah, look, I don't blame them for trying to sell consoles. Let's face it, PlayStation 5 has really survived off the back of Insomniac games at the moment. They have done a phenomenal
and their messaging's
job.
weird, like the generations thing when they only had a couple of games that were next gen only and everything was cross gen. Their biggest games were cross gen, you know?
Yep.
So that messaging is kind of weird. And I'll book in my statement by saying that Insomniac wanted to sell their game and really get people excited about how they felt like they were stretching the limits of what they could do. And sometimes when you try and sell something, yeah,
That's true, but it undermines your credibility. You don't have to do it like that. Preach it and promote it on the things that are actually true and the things that it can do. Build some credibility about your brand, about what you're working with, instead of being exposed later because you told a blatant lie.
Well,
I think there's better. I think there was enough.
But if you're saying that, then we have to, you've got to be fair when we're making these sort of distinctions and having these conversations. And in fairness, Starfield's coming out at 30 FPS. We heard Xbox at the beginning of the generation, saying, everything will be running. I mean, I think it was Aaron, great guy, love Aaron, he champion.
It was Aaron, yeah.
But he said that it's going to be a 60 FPS sort of standard. We've seen 4K on 120 FPS on the front of the Xbox box. I mean, PS5 took it further and they've got 8K on the front of their box. I think there was a little bit of hyperbolic marketing at the beginning of this generation, and you've got to point to both, absolutely. But then I think
will agree with you.
Yeah,
I will also add though that Aaron said that before they bought Bethesda.
Yeah, but I think you've also got to understand that it is marketing and the devs are a disconnect, right? But then when something like this happens, absolutely call it out. When anyone's brought up the Aaron said 60 FPS is a standard, I haven't defended that.
And I won't defend it either. Just to make sure that I'm not a complete bot. Like I'm the same. I'll give Greenberg the same smoke for saying everything's going to be 60. I believe that, just like I believed Insomniac. But I think that Aaron probably believed that at the time, and I'm not just saying that for an excuse for Aaron, but based on the hardware and based on what we were actually seeing, he probably did believe that everything was going to be 60. And it was an internal metric that the standard was going to be 60. That was the internal metric that they set for themselves. Okay.
Well, it was before 60. There are outliers that only run at 30, and a lot of them have been fixed to optimization.
Right,
but
that's right.
It is 60.
and that still meets the definition of standard. Their standardization of almost every single game that we've seen come out has been 60 or patched to 60, except for Redfall and Starfield. Go figure, right?
Yeah, and they're the outliers. But I just wanted to ask a question. Now, when it comes to Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, is it as instantaneous as it is on the PlayStation 5 when you pull into a rift? Is there a time delay? Do they need to load all that in the background? So
if you watch, I watched Digital Foundry, and I watched Alex and a couple of other comparisons, and at point there is a slight hang up on a HDD. I think he was running the 7,500 RPM HDD. I think it was a Western Digital, not 110% sure. But he wasn't really getting a hang up. It was very slight, barely noticeable. On the older HDDs, it was hanging up. On the older SSDs, it was also hanging up in spots too. But really interesting that a 4090 and like top of the line PCs cannot brute force that, because you would think that they would be able to. I was really sort of surprised when there was slight hang-ups with really powerful GPUs, CPUs, and then maybe a little less powerful SSD. I don't think an SSD should be the definitive word on performance in your setup, and I think it's weird. And so there's some talk. Talk. I'm just gonna say this, and I'm not saying that I believe it, but there is some talk that there was purposeful, that they've purposefully made it so that is the case, so they didn't look bad. I think that's a little bit crazy. I don't think that they would do that.
I don't know about that,
but it's out there.
There's also a speculation from some developers looking at this that some of those rifts, like there's a major rift where you go through 4 different dimensions where that is basically a loading screen. You're not controlling the game. It's all happening for you. It's all been predetermined, and it is not using the power of the SSD, but you can whip those of you who've played the game. I finished it at launch. You can whip these rifts that pull you forward like 20 to 30 feet for the most part in the game, like these floating rifts. And I remember thinking, I've done this before I mean, you do it in Psychonauts too. You know, you walk through this rift and you come out through a totally different area. It is not next level stuff, but when you're trying to sell a next generation console, there often is not something you can do to really sell people on this. And we're actually kind of seeing it with the doubt on Forza Motorsport, where people are like, I don't really think we're getting next generation. Like, what here is next generation? And it's always the little things that move us forward, because games haven't taken that huge leap in a long, long time. I think games look amazing regardless right now.
I do.
They're almost photorealistic, aren't they, Cole? And a lot of the things that we are going forward is things like the physics and the background AI and things like that. And they're very difficult for casuals to see and pick up on. But you can definitely feel them when you play the game. Like, for example, Plague's Tale, and the amount of rats on screen and what it takes to be able to do that, which is why the game ran at 30 in the first place, was, incredibly impressive.
Yeah,
I guess you guys could say that the only rift that they've put is our trust in PlayStation.
Yeah.
They rifted us apart.
Look, I do
Yeah,
want to.
you guys are right. The
Yeah.
the advancements in games have honestly they've been so nuanced. They're so small that it's very difficult for us to see. So I think I want them to be more open and more celebratory of the big things. You know what I mean? And I think it's awesome of us in the community, like this podcast, where we can say, you know what, the game has this added to it, and therefore it runs at this, and really pointing that out for people, I think really does help. So.
Yeah, and I think to Pete's point, when we talk about Forza Motorsport and racing games generally don't move the needle, but I think that Forza in what they've done with track temperatures, tire temperatures, intake temperatures, all this stuff running at once, in the background. It's not something that you can sell, that you can see. Obviously,
That's your next gen.
That's your next gen. Exactly. Yeah. That's your next
it's
gen.
All those things running in the background to affect the gameplay. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very, very hard to show that to a consumer. So I take your point, Colt. Absolutely 110% agree. Pete as well, that you can't sell physics to a casual player base. It'd be pretty difficult to do that, but I hope that that's what they focus on. I think, Colt, we talked to Jason Ronald about this, and he did ask, what do you want to see in the next gen coming up? Is it graphics or is it something else? And my hand was up saying physics, item permanence, something when you live in when you in the world, you feel like you've lived in the world. You've moved that sandwich to this spaceship or and it stays there, and you do this and it has this effect. Nothing in the world is static. I want to see that in the next gen, where everything can be affected by your actions in the game, and that to me is next gen. But again, really, really hard to sell to a consumer. I don't think that's something that you can put on a box. But what you can put on a box? Ray tracing, Pete, and sell a PS5 Pro. We should probably move to the next topic.
Why don't they just give us what you guys were debating about last week? Proper 8K and proper TVs that can support it.
Yeah, well, look,
Right,
I don't want to dive into that conversation because we'll end up in a 3-hour argument. But I will say, I mean, you can sell ray tracing. You can probably sell frames, and myself personally, if they're going to give me a box that does 1440p, guaranteed 60 FPS, and the option to ray trace, not all the time, but when they can, I'm going to be happy with that. I'd probably pay the $1,000, but that's just
And if we had had that, if that's what we were definitely getting for everything, I would not have bought a PC. I'm with you. I would have been happy with 1440p 60, no ray tracing. I don't care, and that would have saved me $4,000.
I feel like ray tracing is kind of much ado about nothing anyway now.
Oh,
I don't know.
I thought that until I saw it. in true ray tracing. What we're getting on consoles is just ray
Oh, you got
traced shadows.
wait, Garuda, did you actually get your build for your PC already? You got that situated, or?
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder you're talking so
Yeah.
elitist.
Oh, no.
Right
I'm
now.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm repping Xbox, bro. Look at me.
No, I'm just messing with you, brother.
He's getting sensitive. He's been copping it all week for jumping into a PC. Damn fraud.
The boys been slamming me, man.
Oh, poor thing.
We do need to move to the next topic, but before we do, guys, please hit that like button if you're here supporting us and you are subscribed. If you're new, we go live 8 p.m. Friday EST every week, so subscribe and you will be here for the next week. Look, the next one has obviously got to be Final Fantasy 14 coming to Xbox. I've never been a massive Final Fantasy fan. Probably since 7. I think 7 was the last one that I played on the PlayStation 1. And then I moved on. A lot of people didn't, and everyone loves Final Fantasy. And from what I've heard, it is a great MMO. So it's fantastic. It's something that, obviously, that if we can do this, we could probably bring World of Warcraft over. That's a whole different conversation. So this is a great and a huge thing. And it's sort of, to me, it signals that obviously Square Enix and Phil Spencer have been talking in the background. Square Enix is hurting from a lot of their most recent releases that haven't really lived up to expectations. Does any Square Enix release live up to expectations? But obviously they've been talking to Phil, and they can see that there's a player base on Xbox that wants their games. And why they haven't done this earlier, I don't know. I haven't put myself personally, Square Enix, in the same basket as Platinum, but they were getting pretty close. Whereas I will not, if you know or don't know, I will not buy Platinum games. I don't care how good that game is. I will not support that studio. I do not like what they're about and what they do.
You insect.
Yeah, I will not. But Square Enix was pushing their way towards that sort of in my mind. And this is sort of a comeback. And it's great to see that they're finally recognizing that the player base on Xbox are fans. They do want these games and that there's money to be made. So this is a really good thing. I think for Cutie, I'm going to jump straight to you because I know you love your MMOs. And is this something that you... Oh, she said she'd be right back. I didn't see that. Everyone was like, Pete, I know you hate
you heard the old patent clear throat that I did, right? That was my signal. Right
Pete,
there.
I know you hate MMOs. So what are your thoughts on Final Fantasy coming to Xbox? I think it's a little bit bigger.
Look, Final Fantasy isn't my cup of tea, but I want to go bigger, and Square Enix has basically become first party for Sony, and it's becoming a bit of a joke with Forspoken and the amount of deals that they're doing. So I love this. I love that Phil Spencer, and I wonder. I agree, Risk. What took this so long? Why wasn't this done before? And what was the trigger for this to go forward? Was it more money? I'm glad to see that more Square Enix games are coming to the platform.
There's a new CEO, just to throw that in there, Pete. Yeah. I actually forgot about that, but we did talk about it. But yeah, there's a new CEO, and that must have obviously triggered it, right?
Yeah, I'm glad, because there are a lot of people in the community that love these type of games. Umbra, you're one of them. These more Japanese-centric games. They're not my cup of tea, but I'm so glad for those people that love those games, that have been missing out, that have been craving these type of games coming to the system. And so now we just got to wait for the proof in the pudding. It's all good having a handshake deal, and it's all good having words, but now I want to see games coming out. I don't want to see any more deals like Forspoken. I don't want to see any more deals like Final Fantasy 16. So hopefully going forward, we get more Square games going on the Xbox platform.
Yeah. My thing for me is like, and I don't know if Risk want me to go yet, but I'm doing it anyway.
Get in there, man.
The Square thing is cool with me. I'm glad to see that, mostly because Phil has lived up to what he said he would do, and Phil keeps living up to what he said he'll do. So much love to Phil for saying he was going to get the game over here. It took a time, but he got it over here. So kudos for that. That's a W. I don't play MMOs much like that, but like Pete said, I do actually appreciate these Japanese titles and stuff like that, and stuff that a lot of Xbox gamers probably don't typically gravitate to. So this is cool for that reason. To have anything close to where we can have some type of parity is something, for third party, is something we should all want. The problem for me that I'm wondering about, though, and I did see a few of our Hoove brothers trying to use that as some type of distraction or some type of, to deflect away from this W, is that, this is an MMO, so you have to pay for a monthly subscription. with Final Fantasy 14. So how is Xbox going to navigate around that? Yeah, do they have a deal in place, maybe to take care of that for us, and we can just play the game? You know what I mean? Because I think PlayStation does. I don't think they have to pay a separate subscription, I believe, on PlayStation, if I'm not mistaken. Something to that nature. I forgot what it was. But I wonder how that's going to work, because we're already paying for Game Pass. Are we going to also want to pay for that? That's the problem. So I want to see how that's handled, really. As far as Square, I don't put anything above them making their bottom line.
Quickly get those bars out before they bust down the door.
Yeah, I was about to mute myself because I was like, please don't tell me anybody is hearing that nonsense.
Gosh.
Okay.
The joy of living in Chicago.
Oh boy. Yeah, tell me about it. But one thing I would say too is in Square, they're never, like you pointed out, they're never happy with what they've made. It's never quite there, at least for the Western division that they sold off. So I have a feeling that they just weren't hitting the numbers that they wanted to hit, and now they're finally like, yeah, we got to come to the table. You know what I mean? But it would be quite hilarious if this is just the beginning of their, I guess, quote unquote, organic relationship, and Microsoft ends up acquiring Square. I know many people don't want them to do that, but I would laugh. I've said it before, and I've said it again. I'll say it again. If they actually acquire Square, I will laugh my ass off. So, because I know that the chaos is going to bring if they do that. But
I will be insufferable on Twitter if they bought Square Capcom.
No more nice Gap Colt. If that happens, no more nice guy.
Nope. Be nice to be out the window. Yeah, the Hooven brothers would be clomping upset for a long time. Yeah.
They were like, "What happened to be nice?" Oh, look at
I will be petty. That's what I will be. I promise.
Well, Cole, looking to jump to you. I mean, this has obviously got larger implications than just Final Fantasy 14 coming. This could be the beginning, and from based on Phil's tweet, this could be the beginning of a decent relationship. But there's no mathematical equation where you could sit down and look at the numbers that you have on both systems and then think that, it would have to be a decent amount of money to keep you exclusive on PlayStation, because there is just because they're smaller, that doesn't make it small per se. There's a lot of money to be made in Xbox. And it's sort of good to see that Square Enix is recognizing that that's probably part of the problem.
Unfortunately, some of Square's games that are not Final Fantasy don't do very well, and they have some games that not a lot of people talk about that do okay, that sell really well. But that would be great. But I just can't help but think that Phil has been talking to Square, and they got this new CEO, and the conversation must have been like, come on, like, what's with the snub? Like, we have all these customers that have been asking for your games, and you're only missing out, like, and it's part of a relations thing that Xbox has been doing over the past 4 or 5 years to have some sort of foothold and presence in the Eastern market or the Asian market or whatever. And so that's what this conversation was. Phil just said, like, come on, what are we doing here? Like, you should be putting games on our platform. We would love to have you. We would love to support you, and it would be good for everybody. And the conversation after that was probably like, you know what? I don't know what's been going on, but yeah, let's shake hands, and here we are. And Phil flew over there to make that announcement in person. So this is something that's needed to happen. Now, I'm not a Final Fantasy fan, but they have games that could, if they sell 5,000 more or 1 million more because they're on Xbox, that's good for everybody. I don't know why people are gatekeeping it, but some people are ridiculous.
Yeah, it's weird to say.
I don't know. That doesn't really answer your question, but
the other thing that's sort of going on though as well is what you sort of pointed out, is that people are calling them traitors, and we're having that sort of conversation happen on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, Elon's site.
It's Twitter.
Yeah, but I don't understand why people get upset about other people being able to play a game. It makes zero sense. It's really weird. Like, it's a weird way to be. I can't enjoy. I mean, Colt, you've said it many times. How strange is it that people are like, I can't enjoy this game now because someone else is playing it? That's just I love it when other people are playing games. I get to talk to them about it. The more people playing a game, the better I can talk to more people about it. Garuda, I know that you're a massive
gaming narrative.
You're a massive fan. I don't know if you are. Are you big into Final Fantasy, Garuda? What do you think this means for Xbox and Square Enix going forward?
Yeah, so it does hit home for me, this one, because growing up back in when I was a kid, Final Fantasy was my all-time favorite franchise, and it was the type of it was a series that you could confidently go out and buy the game sight unseen without having seen a review, and it was going to be some of the best thing you'll ever play. It led the JRPG genre. They were always engaging storylines.
I thought you were going to say quality. I was waiting for it.
Quality. They were quality. I'm talking about Final Fantasy 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and at a push, maybe 10 too. After that, this is where I'm going to go in on Square Enix. I'm sorry for the salt, but look, it's due. They've watered down the franchise for me, and it hits home for me because I am such a fan. They've watered down and diluted this franchise to the point that it's unrecognizable from its former self. It is Final Fantasy now in name only and nothing more. It has a couple of the same characters, like the summons and stuff like that are the same, but there is nothing else about the franchise that even resembles the Zeitgeist glory days that a lot of us, old JRPG fans loved about the franchise. So for me,
Final Fantasy 16's getting a lot of love, brother.
It is, but I mean to say that it is getting a bit of love, and it reviewed well, but from the old diehards, the old school guys, we're not on board with this, right? Because it's the combat system, it's the linear nature of the game, it's a different genre of game completely. I would have been okay with Final Fantasy 16 if it had have been a spin-off title, and I would have been even better with it if it just wasn't called Final Fantasy. Honestly, it's just not. Give us a core Final Fantasy game. We haven't had one since I can't even remember. Okay, when it used to sell a lot, when it was reviewed the best, when it had the biggest fan base, was when it was something that it is not today.
Well, that's that's a bit of an interesting sort of side topic as well, because those sorts of games were built in a way. So Final Fantasy VII was built in a way that its combat was timed and it was the way it was because the system couldn't handle graphical, and particle effects and all that sort of stuff.
It was a product of its time.
A product of its time. And is that something that gamers want to see? I mean, I know that there's a hardcore fan base, but I would argue that you're all, getting old in years and you want to bring in a new fan base and isn't really that this is what they're doing. I understand that you have a nostalgia attachment to the game, but we talk about Final Fantasy 14. That's not time. It's a totally different thing. And I mean, I would have the same discussion about World of Warcraft. I said a couple of weeks ago that the reason that I hate World of Warcraft so much is because it took away my Warcraft RTSs.
Yes. And I'm a huge RTS fan as well, but I'll reply to what you were saying about we're not just the old dinosaurs sitting on the front lawn saying, make my Final Fantasy turn-based again. We're not doing that. That's not what it was about. And I'll tell you why it's not about the combat system. Because Final Fantasy VII Remake combat was fantastic. They struck the balance of the old and the new. They let you have control of each party member, and you had a sort of pseudo turn-based system, but also in real time. They had the balance of the combat system, I think, perfect. I would be happy to see them move forward with that. But what they've done with 16 is they've moved in a more, dare I say it, generic action game direction with the combat to try to appeal to a broader fan base, in my opinion, okay? And some of the carryover from, and this is where I'm going to tie it into the MMO 14 side of it, some of the quest structuring was handled by the MMO team, and it really showed because it was very shallow with some of the side quests and everything like that. So you add in the shallow side quests part of the game, and also with the watered down and diluted combat system. To me, it's disappointing overall.
Garuda, how many times has Final Fantasy actually changed the combat system in their games? But I mean, this isn't different. They pretty much change it every game these days.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean that it improves. I just think that, I mean, I might be speaking personally. I'm an old school Final Fantasy fan, so a lot of this is passion coming from my old dinosaur days of growing up with it. But But I just think that square, 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 triangle is not Final Fantasy. Where's the exploration? Where's the open world? Where's the secrets? Where's the dungeons? Where's the secret bosses? And it's just watered down. It's too linear. It's not really a Final Fantasy game to me. But bringing it all back around, I am happy that they are starting to bring more Square Enix games to Xbox. I'm just sad personally, and I'm obviously not speaking for everyone, but I'm just sad personally that their games don't hit like they used to. And I think that's the reason why they don't sell, not because they've blocked Xbox out of the equation and they've limited their platforms that they have their games on. I just think their games aren't as good as they used to be. Sorry.
Octopath Traveler sells really well.
Yeah, it does. And that was on Xbox.
Yeah, they do.
I think
Yeah,
Final
right.
Fantasy will always sell just because of that nostalgia factor. And I know it's not something that they capitalize on because Square Enix have already said like they want to be new. They do want to. They really focus on revolutionarying their storylines and things like that. And yeah, like the combat system hasn't changed that much. And you know, we are showing our age here by saying that. But I don't know, seeing Phil so happy in that photo, like, you know, him shaking the hand, you know, all on the stage, like he's living his best gaming life. And I think he just wants everyone to play. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, we're on these podcasts and we're streaming it from a computer, you know what I mean? Like there's no one is actually being separated or no one's actually being cut out by this because most of us own a PC.
I wouldn't say most of us own PC.
Well, PlayStation fans do. 4090.
There's more people on PC than there are on Xbox and PlayStation combined.
I know.
Stop it, Cole. Stop it.
And then you think about all the people who own a console that have a PC that like to play games on there. I don't know.
So, Cutie, are you going to play Final Fantasy 14? I mean, you are a big lover of World of Warcraft.
I am.
Are you going to shift over and do what like Asmongold did and move over to Final Fantasy 14?
You know what? I have a PS5. I didn't buy Final Fantasy. It just I don't know. It just doesn't pull me in. It never has. And it just doesn't hit at the moment, and I don't know why. And I've heard some terrible things about it being, you know, like pretty corridors, you know, like just constantly the same thing over and over again. And I don't know. Maybe if I had friends or I was in a group of people that played it, I'd feel influenced to, but I don't know. There's so much to play these days. I just can't be bothered.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not for me either. I completely understand it. But look, it's really, really good to see. I'll sort of wrap the topic unless anyone wants to add anything else. But it's good to see that Square Enix is starting to sort of come to the table with Xbox, and I look forward to seeing what they could do. I do agree that their games have sort of dropped off a little bit. And in other ways they haven't. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was absolutely amazing. Love that game, and it really didn't get the credit I think that it deserved.
Yeah, that was a great game. It didn't really hit off until it came to Game Pass. Then I think more people played it, and then they were like, "Oh, this is actually really good," and it was.
Yeah.
They're published by Square and made by their Western division, which they don't own anymore.
Yeah, and you haven't played it, so you can't talk. Just talking to you.
What? You haven't played it?
I've been ragging Pete about playing.
Bobby Hawk in timeout, guys. Bobby is our resident PlayStation shill, and he's awesome.
He is awesome.
Come on now.
Yeah, Bobby doesn't mean any harm.
He doesn't mean it. He means lots of harm, but it's in a funny way. We love Bobby. Look, we'll move on to the next topic. Bobby, if you're in timeout, I can't pull you out, but we do apologize. We move on to the next topic. Before we do, if you are new here, please hit the subscribe button. We go live 8 p.m. EST every Friday. And if you're not, hit the like button. Really appreciate all you guys hanging out with us and talking games and what's been happening in the gaming community. I'm going to jump a few topics and then come back to a couple of topics. So if you guys are on the list, I apologize. But Remnant 2, watching the comparison and it's the first UE5 2.0 game that we've really seen, or is it the second, Umbra? I'm pretty sure it's the second. But probably one of the ones that I think is the biggest user of it. And what we've seen them use is Nanite. So there's been little to no pop-in this game. If you guys haven't played Remnant 2, I 110% recommend that you get this game. It's absolutely awesome. I'm loving it. I wasn't a big fan of Remnant from the Ashes. But this is a bit of a different ball game. They've really fleshed out the systems. Great game. But what I wanted to cover here is that this is the first game we've seen using UE5 2.0. And I think talking in the background to Umbra, earlier in the week, we sort of agreed that probably UE5 should be shut down as a project. They should move on, and that they shouldn't use that engine for any game ever again. So, Umbra, I know you probably got a chance to look at this because you hate UE5. So what were your thoughts on what you're seeing? You're playing the game as well. So what are your thoughts on what you're seeing within the game? Do you think it's a true representation of UE5, or do you think we've got a fair bit of ground to cover still?
I think we got a fair bit of ground to cover. I mean, to be fair, this is a smaller team that's using it, so I don't expect it to be utilized to its fullest. I think we're going to start seeing that when we see people like the Coalition using it. I thought, and until I think I revealed this to you guys, that Atlas Fallen was using Unreal Engine. It's actually the Fledge engine they're using for Atlas Fallen, and that game
wasn't
looks
your fault, brother. That was all over Twitter as well.
Everyone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but so. I'm actually, for me, when I've played Remnant, I think it looks good, and this is going to hurt. Look at that, stabbed. I'm talking about your gameplay. I feel like, for me, Remnant looks good, but it didn't really wow me. To me, if you told me this was made in Unreal Engine 4, I would have believed it. I think it looks good. I just don't think it really looks like, man, oh wow, this is Unreal Engine 5 right here. I can see it. I don't think it really did that for me. Mm-hmm. But again, it is a smaller dev team that's making it, so I don't really expect them to make it shine like I expect the upper echelon of devs to do it with a AAA budget. You know what I mean? Because I think it's like a AA budget for this game. Am I right about that?
82 employees at Gunfire Games, bro. It is a smaller tier studio. This game was sold at $75 in Australia, $50 in America. It wasn't even a full price game. What they've been able to do, being one of the first teams to actually release on Unreal Engine 5, moved on to 5.2, introduced Nanite. I will defer to Digital Foundry, and what they see says a lot to me, and they love what they've seen. They're able to pull off the graphics. They're able to hold a stable 60. They have an uncapped frame rate as well, which doesn't really hit 120 a lot of the time, but it does get up there. So I said it last week. I want to wait till Unreal Engine 5 games come out until I, am going to go either way on whether or not we need a Series X update, or whether we just need these games to be optimized and use these engines that are coming out. And this bodes really well for the future.
Yeah,
I think performance-wise, it works pretty well. Like, I think this is running pretty well as far as performance, right? So that's a positive. I see a lot of slander for Unreal Engine in the chat, and it's throwing me off. I'm trying not to add you all to the list, so you all need to relax.
Oh, he's got a list. This is what I've seen a lot of is, the first UE5 showcase. This is a showcase for UE5, and I sort of don't see that. I mean, for Nanite's worked really well. I think that's helped with the performance. There's zero pop-in. I have not seen, and that's sort of rare for a AA developer, right? To see sort of zero pop-in within a game. Look at Jedi Knight Survivor, big AAA massive game, pop-in all over the place. So I think Nanite's really done its job here. But it was really the only feature of UE5 they used. So I can't really say it's a showcase of what the hardware can do. But I think what you can sort of point to is, with the size of the team that did this, and looking at the quality of the game, is astounding. And maybe that's the showcase that we're sort of looking at here. Cole, do you think that UE4, I mean, we heard this with UE4, and it's really interesting. People were saying UE4 is going to bring us into the future. It's going to do this, it's going to do that. But as, the engine develops, the hardware develops, and developers want to do more with these engines. And so they push the engines, and then people will say, oh, we really haven't moved forward. But I think you see it at the end of a generation almost every time, where they've really got it dialed in on the engines that they're using with the hardware that they're using, and we get some really amazing games going into the next gen. Do you think this is a showcase for UE5 though?
Well, I mean, when I think about Unreal Engine 5, they have these tools where you can drop in high quality assets that look photorealistic or look like, developers, the studio spent, years creating and cultivating them. you have these pop-in assets that look amazing, but you're not going to get that in every game because not every studio is going to build a game with preset assets. And I remember at Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest, they're like, this new game coming all in Unreal Engine 5, and somebody right next to me in the audience goes, oh, here we go. And this little indie pops up that was looked like Borderlands cell shaded. That was kind of cool, but it was not visually stunning. They just built it in Unreal Engine 5. So if we fall into the trap that this looks incredible because it was built in Unreal Engine 5, that's not really how things are working. So I think Remnant looks pretty cool. I still haven't played it. Fortunately, I'm hooked on a game that I cannot stop playing. So I'm not worried about playing Remnant yet. But
West Virginia.
I'm playing West Virginia, playing it with my good friends and playing it with my kids even, and I'm really, really, really happy about that. But this Unreal Engine thing, you kind of have to wait and defer it to like the heavy hitters. Like when the Coalition builds their game in UE5, that's when everybody's like, oh, this is UE5? Because what else blew people away that was UE5? The Matrix demo by the Coalition. So it's really up to those devs and what they can accomplish.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's what I was saying before. Like, it's going to come down to the heavies and the AAA budgets, because this is not this is a AA budget here, as we talked about, Pete and Risk. And I think it looks good. It just doesn't shine as Unreal Engine can shine. Gray, I already added you to the list. I don't know how many times I can add you to it. But yeah,
I think this just it proves the point that you can have the best tools, but if you don't have the right people with the right skills working on it, it's going to do a disservice to this product. So unfortunately, this is just the case with Remnant 2, and I'm really sorry that you guys were a little bit disappointed by it, or disenchanted perhaps. But yeah, it's just. Hopefully the next one can be good, yeah?
I definitely wasn't.
I don't think it doesn't do a disservice to Unreal Engine 5.
No.
I think it showcases
I felt
nanite
like you guys were
technology,
really
the
negative
level
about
of
it.
detail and the lack of pop-in. I mean, like I said initially, this is an 82-man team. This is a AA game. It's not even full price. The game is incredibly fun. The graphics do stand out. Yeah, they're not absolutely beautiful, but they're more than serviceable. The gunplay is fantastic. I highly recommend everyone play Remnant 2. It's a very difficult game. So just moving away from Unreal Engine 5 and moving actually to the game, I am blown away by how much fun this game is. When you beat a boss, it is a very difficult game, but you get that same feeling that you got in Elden Ring, that that feeling of pushing through. And look, you can play it with friends as well. It's 3-player co-op. Yeah, I can't recommend this game enough. I love it. It's a 9 out of 10
Peter's over there.
for me.
Peter's over there talking about, you brought that love and feeling.
Oh, yeah. Looking for the mute
Except
button.
when you play with Umbra,
where's
you
the
just
mute
got to
button?
carry him all the
I
time.
carried you guys. I just wanted to point that out
One
again.
other thing that's sort of crazy about this, I was looking at the comparison between PlayStation 5 and Xbox. Xbox is the only system that has aside from PC, that has 120 FPS mode. If you unlock your system to 120, you can't do it within the game, and then you go into, I believe it's performance mode, which has an unlocked frame rate. It'll run out as far as it can run out. It's got an uncapped frame rate, whereas the PlayStation 5 still sits within a 60 FPS container and won't push outside of that. That I found really odd. I don't know why. I mean, I'm not a massively technical guy, but Colt, did you get a chance to check that out? And why do you think that that's happening?
I haven't, but I mean, I don't know. I haven't checked out to see what the frame rate, the variables are like. Does it go to, does it sit at 60 or does it run at 45 to 80 frames, depending on if you're looking in the sky or not? I don't know. But I am also the kind of guy that when I have the choice, like on PC, I never try to push above 60. I just set it to look as nice as it can. I lock the frame rate to 60 or tell it to cap. And I think you get a really good experience, because that's what I want. I want a solid performing game that looks great. And I don't care. Like, that's kind of like when Grudo's like, oh, I was playing this game at 4K 120. Yeah. I mean, what's your GPU in your PC?
Garuda? He's gone. He's not.
It's probably like a 40. Well, I mean, the game's the Rise is pretty old. You could probably push that up on
had
anything.
a glass in a hand, bro. Sorry, I just avert a situation there. Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah, I have a 4080, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, you could do that for sure.
But that's an old game too, man. Like that when I said I was playing 4K 120, that was on Rise Son of Rome
on Rise
10 years ago.
Yeah, that.
But that was with all the settings turned up. Yeah, sure. But not all games can do that, you know. And I've found quickly that even the 40 series GPUs, they do have their limitations. Like I don't know if it's optimization on some games, but like you know, what's that Star Wars the new one,
Survivor.
Yeah, Survivor. Man, that's just that first level. It's just horrible. Even on my setup, you know, it goes from like 120 frames down to 30. It's just all over the place. But yeah, you do need a really high end GPU for that. And 60, I agree, Colt. I was listening to you before. If I can get 60 on my games, I'm cool with it. I don't care about anything else, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I just found it quite strange that the developers would allow sort of that or include that feature within an Xbox, and then it wasn't available on PlayStation. Especially because usually, look, I mean, when we have these comparisons, in fairness, if you looked at them as a whole, you would probably see a minor performance buff, I think, on PlayStation 5. But then you would see a higher graphical fidelity on the Xbox Series X. So it seems to have been throughout the generation that, yeah, PlayStation does, you know, I think occasionally perform better than the Xbox does. But then you always have a higher graphical fidelity on Xbox. So I found it really odd that the Xbox is running at 120 FPS, whereas the PlayStation's locked to 60.
Was there a setting you changed in the game? Because the Xbox One X, Series S, and Series X, those three consoles have faster HDMI. They have an HDMI 2.0 or 2.1. HDMI 2.1, which has a higher bandwidth for resolution, HDR, and frame rate on modern TVs. And the PS5 does not have that capability. So that might be why, because they had to add in that VRR mode later on the PS5.
So there's three modes. There's quality mode, which runs at 30. There's balanced mode, which is meant to be locked at 60. And then there's performance mode, which uncaps the frame rate. And like I said before, it doesn't quite hit 120. Now, PlayStation has all those three modes, but when you put it on performance mode, it is still locked at 60. It doesn't actually get uncapped like the Xbox does. There hasn't been any information as to why that is the case. Digital Foundry looked into it and hasn't been able to find anything so far. But in terms of performance, they're basically identical. They both drop frames in the same places, but they generally get really good performance. Where performance is lacking in this game and optimization is definitely needed is the PC. Even the 4090 is struggling, and there are massive dips where 60 mode can even go down to the mid-40s at places.
Yeah, and that's a strange thing that we've seen throughout the generation as well, is PCs not getting their the optimizations that they should.
It's a small team, bro. It's a small team.
Yeah, well, it's not just the small teams. It's something that I know you're a massive Remnant defender. But we've seen it throughout the generation with every game. Like it's just about every game where these games are not being optimized. I don't know. We do have to move on to the next topic, but to me, I'm starting to think, you know, with all of these SKUs that have to be developed for, you're stretching teams thinner than they have ever been stretched before.
Yeah. It must be a nightmare to do it for all those SKUs. It really must be a nightmare.
Yeah.
This is a quote from Digital Foundry. While Remnant 2 definitely has its technical flaws, as one of the first Unreal Engine 5 games around, it proves the capability of Unreal Engine 5's nanite tech with a level of visual complexity that outstrips last-gen software. Whether you like or dislike the reliance on procedural systems, it's hard to deny that every handcrafted piece of Remnant 2 environments comes packed with polygon detail and looks quite pleasing in the game.
Yeah, it does. Massive. If you don't know, Pete's a massive Remnant defender. He defended the first one, still defending the second one.
Yeah.
we do have to move on. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. If not, hit the like button, share us out. We go live 8 p.m. every Friday EST. We've got I'm going to jump another topic. I'm all over the shop today. So we're going to go to, I think the Capcom's announced and unannounced game, which is weird, right? We're announcing an unannounced game, which is going to be coming out, I think, 2024 in March, is expected to sell millions. Really interesting. Do we think that, and my question, I think, to the panel all over was just going to be, what do we think this is going to be? Do we think this is going to be another Monster Hunter? Do we think it's going to be a Devil May Cry? Mega Man. Well, what do we...
Mega Man.
Calm down. Me. Yeah, so look, I just want to do a quick fire round around the panel and see what you guys think that this might actually be. I'm pretty stumped. I honestly think probably for when they're talking about selling millions, I'm thinking another Monster Hunter. But then again, they did just drop, I think, develop Monster Hunter for, was it Xbox? It dropped on Xbox. Not a big fan. So it could also...
Joanne of Dark's still there. But
yeah.
I'm going Code Veronica, and South Mole just called it out as well. And
Did he just steal my idea?
No, what?
He definitely did. Yeah,
we talked behind the scenes, and I literally named that. You know
he
that, right?
did not.
And Pete was like, I think he said he was going to steal it at the time, didn't he? Look, I'm going to jump to.
He did kind of say that, yeah.
I'm going to jump to Cole. Cole,
Lies.
What do you think? What do you think this is? What game is this?
It's probably exclusive for Xbox, so they can buy them. I don't know. I don't know, because we could be picking anything. But can I just say what I would love for it to be, and everyone can disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for it to be a new Dead Rising game, because I adore those games that everybody thinks are trash. I love them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I love those games.
Right.
No, they're cool.
Guys in the chat, what do you think? Do you want another Dead Rising game? Press 1 if you do, and 2 if you don't. Cutie, what do you want it to be? What do you think it is?
I have no idea. All I know is they're claiming that it will sell millions of copies. So I can only guess that it's not a new IP. It would have to be something from their old catalog. It can't be Street Fighter. I don't know. God. Do you reckon they could do a new Resident Evil? I don't know.
In that time, yeah, they have just dropped Resident Evil 4. And then to expect that to release in 2024, yeah, you're right. It's probably a bit too soon, right?
Yeah, honestly, I have no idea, and I don't really have any hopes. I know you guys are like big Capcom fans, so honestly, I have no idea. If it's not Street Fighter, if it's not Resident Evil, I've got no idea.
Yeah, I'm thinking Devil May Cry. Garuda, what do you think?
Oh, bruv, I'm gonna tell you what I hope it is, but what I know it's not, and that's Mega Man. That's like one of my all-time favorite franchises from Capcom. You know, for as successful as Capcom are, they have a ton of incredible dormant IP that they could bring back and modernize.
Okay.
I mean,
Right,
I know.
vibe.
I know I'm sort of being a bit sort of nostalgic and probably showing my age a little bit too, but like, bruv, I want Mega Man, but it just if they're really confident in it and they're saying that it's going to sell a lot and it's going to be successful, I would hazard a guess to say that it would be something like Monster Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because the last installment was not a full
really.
release. It was more of a spin-off, like the last Monster Hunter. It wasn't a mainline. It was a Switch game. I'd say World 2. I would say it'll be World 2 coming up. Yeah.
Okay, Pete, what are you thinking?
What Devil May Cry game do you think it is? Because Devil May Cry 5 came out on Xbox and PlayStation and ran. That was one of the first games that really struck out visually. It had a 60 FPS mode, so I can't see it being that. We know Dragon's Dogma 2 has already been announced, so it can't be that. And the Devil May Cry team is working on Dragon's Dogma, so I can't see them releasing a game unless they've pushed it over to another studio. So that's kind of why I ruled that out.
Yeah, and the Devil May Cry team just made Final Fantasy 16, so they won't have a game ready.
I don't know. Well, look, it's been 5 years since we've seen a Devil May Cry, which is why I'm sort of thinking Devil May Cry. It's been less than a year since we've seen Monster Hunter Rise. All of this is complete conjecture, by the way, Chad. It could very possibly.
That blue number said Dead Rising. That's a good one.
Dead Rising. Yeah, that's what Colt said.
Yeah, that's what I said, and everyone made fun of me.
But I
like those weird, crappy, campy games. I don't know. I like Dead Island 2 and Dying Light a lot. I'm a fraud. What can I say?
Dead Island 2 is actually really good. I actually need a co-op person to play with that so I can get those achievements. But I was going to say my answer was what Pete stole from me.
Wow.
Just going to throw it out there. But the good thing is I said it on my show the other day, so I beat you to it regardless. So it is what it is.
That's because we talked about it the night before and you stole my idea.
Oh, Lord. Listen, anyway, if it's not Code Veronica, which I...
No!
Sorry.
Yes, which I definitely said first. If it's not that, I did float the idea of Devil May Cry, but then I was like, maybe. But I think Devil May Cry is more of a prestige title for them that they would give more time than to just throw out that fast. So I feel like it's going to be a remake, and the most that makes sense is a Resident Evil game. I don't know if it'll be Code Veronica. It could be Part 5.
Please. Yeah.
For all we know, it could be Part 5. I think they're going to do both, personally. They got some things to correct with Part 5, I'm sure. But, if you know, you know. But I feel like it could be between those two. And when we were talking about this, Pete did give some valuable information up besides taking my answer. He did say that it was a smaller team working on this as far as the dev team, I believe you alluded to. So if that's the case, I imagine that it won't be something as big as, something as big, I guess. It's not a full-fledged game. It's probably just a remake. That's what makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, well, look, we've just saw Resident Evil 4 this year. This year it's dropped, right? So then we're looking at a release in a year. I can't see it. It's been 5 years since we've seen the release of Devil May Cry 4. I'm definitely going to stick to that one. We've seen teams sort of split and work on, the beginning, the early development stages of a game, and then once they've released, the whole team jumps on it. So, I don't know, mate. Yeah, it's a tough one. It could be a completely new IP, which is something I'd also prefer, to be fair. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So, not really a consensus.
Well, they sounded confident though, because they said it will sell millions, right, by March or May, whatever it said, but. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if they're saying that, it's probably an established IP. Yeah. That's what I would think.
Yeah, agreed. I agree. But I mean, really, they were pretty cagey, so it's pretty hard to tell what they're going to bring out. Look, I do want to move on to the next topic before I do, guys. Please hit the like button. If you've been supporting us for a long time and you've forgotten, just dip out, press a button, dip in. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. We go live 8 p.m. Fridays, EST. And if you're in Australia, before Pete chimes in and kills me, I believe it's 10 o'clock if you're in the Eastern Australian board.
You got it right today.
I got it right today. Wow. And if you're in Western Australia, no one cares. I'm in Western Australia, so apologies to anyone who is.
And me.
Oh, yeah. So cutie. But she's in the country, so people care less about that too. But moving on. So the developers from Ubisoft. Now, Ubisoft, I did hear, and I love the guys at RDX. Dealer, D-Batch, Hargeet, all those guys are absolutely champions. And I did hear him talking about Ubisoft and the direction that it's going. I think they've sort of slowly starting to right the ship. I think they're still getting a lot of shade that they maybe don't deserve. They did just cancel Immortals Fenix 2, which I know Pete loved that game. I thought it was just a complete clone of Zelda, and it was trash. Wasn't for me. Hated the game. I generally hate any game that Pete likes. But also they've said that, and I think this was throwing a bit of shade at Valhalla, another game that I personally loved, and I know the community doesn't feel the same way that I feel, but I think it was the best in the series. People said it was bloated. We did have a lot of arguments at the time about which game was actually bigger, and I think it turned out that I was right, as it usually does. And I think they've mentioned that it's absolutely not a 200 or 300 hour epic unfinishable RPG, which is great. It's what they call it, a very manageable ride. I don't know if I would pitch my game as, guys, buy my game. It's very manageable. But I mean, I'm loving what I'm seeing from Star Wars Outlaws at the moment, and I have a whole lot of confidence in it.
Oh yeah, is that this year?
Yeah, I think it's coming next year.
Oh.
We almost jumped out of the seats when that came on at the Xbox Fan Fest. That was one of my highlights.
We thought, oh my gosh, exclusive.
And then it wasn't. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it looks a great game. I'm pretty excited. I just wanted to finish the sort of head to the last topic on a real positive note. They did cancel Immortals Fenix Rising. I hope they don't cancel Splinter Cell, which is in the works. They have announced. But to me, I think Ubisoft is going in a great direction. They're pumping out some smaller games like Prince of Persia, and they're pumping out some massive titles like Outlaws, and they seem to sort of be understanding what the community wants. I know that a lot of people weren't too happy with them sort of stepping back, and then a lot of people were stepping back into Mirage and making a sort of a smaller, more linear, traditional Assassin's Creed. But I have said from the very beginning, why can't we do both? And they are doing that. I think that is a great thing. I don't know if they have to call them all Assassin's Creed, but they're doing that. That's it. I think personally, and I'm not a Ubisoft stan. I could go one way or the other. I really don't care. But I think that Ubisoft are doing some things that are sort of starting to right that ship. Pete, I know that that you loved Immortals Fenix Rising, so you would disagree with that decision, but maybe they've taken devs off that project to work on something better, which would be every game that they would release. But what are your thoughts on Immortals Fenix Rising being cancelled and just the direction that Ubisoft is sort of going? And are you starting to feel a bit of hope? Because for a while there, it was things were bad, very bad.
First off, I just want to say that I'm really disappointed with Immortal Fenix Rising. We all know that it's incredibly difficult to get a new IP off the ground. They put their best team on this. I can't remember which one it was. I think it might be Ubisoft Montreal. They're pretty much my favorite Ubisoft team. I love everything that they do, and I think Immortals Fenix Rising was a criminally underrated game. I personally didn't even play it, so I'm guilty of this as well. I didn't play it until it came on to Game Pass, and I loved every second of it. I got so many pictures of that game. Yeah, loved everything about it. I know it was said to be a Zelda clone, but that's not a bad thing. Breath of the Wild is one of the best games ever made, so I really think they should have pushed forward with this IP. In saying that, yes, I do think that Ubisoft is heading in the right direction. Star Wars Outlaws looks amazing. I love what they're doing with Assassin's Creed Mirage. Excellent. I love that they're bringing Black Splinter Cell. I mean, that game has been gone for far too long. Star Wars looks amazing. I'm glad that it's not going to be a 200, 300 hour opus like Valhalla was. It's just too much. The amount of games we've got coming out, I just can't really dedicate that amount of time to one game. By the sounds of it, the worlds are going to be, full of content, but there's not going to be too much. There's going to be little things like, you're going to be able to design your speeder. I love the look of the character you're going to play. I love the timeline set between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I actually like the fact that you're not going to be a Jedi for once.
See, I was disappointed in that too. I really wanted them to set it like in the last three. I think the second one of the last three that they made was probably the absolute best of all time.
Just shut up. Just shut up. I love that they're delving deeper into the grittier parts of the Star Wars world. Now, they built a world from scratch in this game. I love that. They worked really hand in hand with LucasArts, which I love to bring that world to life, and everything they've done so far and everything they've said just seems fantastic. And look, it's a Star Wars game, so I'm always going to love it. But now, because Ubisoft Massive is working on Star Wars, what's going on with the Division? I know we're getting Division Heartland, I think it is, but are we ever going to see a Division 3?
Whoa!
Yeah,
good point. Sorry, Cutie, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to add to Pete's enthusiasm because I'm part of the Ubisoft Creators Program, and there is so many exciting things happening with this game. They're releasing so many behind the scenes. You can see pretty much every single member of their team love this franchise. They are so well invested. They know the lore so well. They're getting people who are really passionate about these stories, and they're getting them into these games. And I think it's going to be fantastic, and honestly, I can't wait.
I just want to address real quickly something in the chat, and then I'll jump over back to the panel. Enigmatic Dreams said that the last trilogy was trash. I won't have that slander. That was the best set or trilogy of movies ever made, not just in the Star Wars universe. My favorite part of that entire series was when Leia didn't have any Jedi powers, died, managed to learn Jedi powers while she was dead, and then flew through the air while she was dead and managed to get herself back through the door. I mean, that was some stunning.
Oh, that's the part Pete
script
said he
writing.
loved the most too, right?
Yeah. You guys are such morons. You're just trying to
great
make
writing.
me upset, but I ain't gonna fall for it.
Pete, you told me you loved that part.
Don't let them get to you, Pete.
I
Don't let
loved them.
get to
I don't
you.
care. I loved them.
Yeah,
Riskit, I
I
could have
did
sworn
too,
he told us he
Garuda.
loved
I
that
did
part.
too.
Didn't
Yeah,
he
he
tell
said
us
it was
that?
his favorite bit. That's what I heard.
Yeah. Now he's switching up on us now.
I think he just left. Look, I do want to jump back onto Ubisoft and their direction. And Cole, what do you think? I know that you loved Odyssey, and that you were a fan of the Assassin's Creed series in that. And that skew of it. But what do you think about them jumping back to Mirage, like what they're doing with Outlaws, the smaller games like Prince of Persia? Do you think they're riding the ship?
Yeah. I loved Origins and Odyssey, and you're right. Valhalla was really cool for about 30 or 40 hours, and then it really wore on me, and I got to the point where I just had to kind of push through and just finish it so I could roll the credits. But I'm hoping that like you said, the pared down Assassin's Creed would be great, but I always loved Ubisoft. I love what they do, and I love most of their games. When you said Division 3, I don't know if there's a market for that, but those games are actually gotten really, really well supported, and they're really, really great. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to what they're doing. Like the Skull and Bones, there's a whole story. We could do a whole podcast about Ubisoft. Like Skull and Bones is not what people wanted, and they're really having a hard time finding their footing. But they have like 3 billion employees, so.
Yeah, well, they're talking about bringing, I think it was bringing Assassin's Creed Black Flag back. So they might meld what they've done with Skull and Bones into, which is what I hope they do.
Remaster.
I think they need to be wary with the amount of Assassin's Creed games that they put out. I mean, we were meant to stop that. They were meant to stop surviving on the Assassin's Creed label. I like what they've done with Mirage. I like that. The direction they're going with the other game as well. Like, so you have both SKUs of Assassin's Creed to keep everyone happy. But if you also push out Black Flag, I just think that you're going to oversaturate the market.
All right,
I think that's what they've been doing for a long
Black
time.
Flag badly like that. Okay, I won't have that.
I love me Black Flag, man. It's my favorite in the franchise. But listen, I think though that's their push all along, though, Peter. They've been Assassin's Creed bound for a long time now, and they're continuing that way. They have 4 games in development. Yeah, they said it, but I don't think they're holding true to it because they got Hex, Project Hex. They got Red. They have it's another one too. Red is the one set in feudal Japan, which I'm hyped for.
And then
actually,
you've got the Unity one or whatever it's called, where
It's a
they're
bunch.
linking all the worlds together.
Oh, Infinite.
Yeah.
Infinite. Yeah.
Infinity.
Yeah, so I don't think they're actually
Infinite?
doing that.
Copy
Not
my
sure,
damn
mate,
name.
yeah.
I'm not sure either. But I was going to say the thing that's concerning is that Ubisoft they've canceled over half a dozen games since 2022. So a lot of these games we hope they would fund outside of the AAA, because honestly, if you look at their model, to me it seems like they're going toward what PlayStation is doing. So you don't see the creativity as much. Now, when we saw this latest Ubisoft show, we did see some things that look decent, like Pete mentioned, of course, which I'm hyped for as well, the Prince of Persia game. That looks really good. That looks like something that you expect Ubisoft to kind of do, stuff like that, Rayman, et cetera, et cetera. But we're not getting that as much. It seems like their focus is more toward the AAA game now, kind of like how Sony does. They want to put out the AAA bangers. So Assassin's Creed has been their focus. And with Phoenix Rising being canceled, the not so rumor is that they were moving those teams over to Assassin's Creed projects. And there has reportedly been some pushback from those devs, by the way, that didn't want to leave from developing Immortals Fenix Part 2. So there is some consternation, as you would say, behind the scenes. I feel like Ubisoft is going in the right direction overall. So to me, I don't think it's necessarily a negative of what's going on. But like you though, Pete, I do wish that they would focus more on other IP and push more creativity, and I think that would help them in the long run versus just kicking out continuous Assassin's Creed all the time, Assassin's Creed games. I think it's hurt them more than it's helped them. Although I'm sure their sales have showed otherwise. I don't know. Honestly, I just feel
I
like
like Watch Dogs. I think they
Yeah.
need to go back to what Watch Dogs 1 was, have
Mm.
that more of a darker narrative. I loved it in
Nah.
Chicago. I love the rainy nature of it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
I think
Watch
you've got
Dogs 3 was a
I think you've got a
massive failure.
nostalgic view of Watch
But
Dogs 1. I don't think
still-
it wasn't that great. It was actually
I
not.
think he means the direction of it was good.
The systems of Watch Dogs 2, in the more narrative focused, darker tone of narrative 1, of Watch Dogs 1, is where I think the sweet spot for Watch Dogs is. I still love that franchise. I think it deserves another chance. I love Far Cry. I think they need to pull back the amount of gameplay, like game in Far Cry, and pull it back to something more like Far Cry
More
3.
manageable.
But there
Yeah.
is a lot of things that Ubisoft have and can work on, and I just don't know why they choose to release, say, Skull and Bones. Now, I get why they're releasing it. They got a lot of money from I think the Singaporean government
Yeah.
wanting to pull games development into the country. You really
Yeah.
can't say no to that amount of money. So I get why they're doing it, but I think the game's going to suffer, and Ubisoft's name is going to suffer
Yeah.
because I played the beta. It's horrible.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Didn't you just violate the NDA? They were coming for you. But I would say also too, like, we need to see other projects that we, tried and true IP that we've come to love Ubisoft for. Where's my Splinter Cell? I know they're working on it. I need to see that. Again, have Rayman. Rayman was once a ridiculously great platformer. Bring that back. You know what I mean? They have. I thought that's where they were going with it when I saw the Prince of Persia. So to see this with Immortal Phoenix Rising does give me pause. It makes me think like maybe they're not headed that way. But I think they've made enough positive moves that I'm like, okay, that's I mean, the Star Wars game that looks like, okay, Ubisoft, you're stepping out a bit. You're doing some things that's positive that I can see for them. So, but I think though that their model is aiming for big AAA releases and not so much AA outside of the Prince of Persia. That seems to be the case for me.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't have seen them like years, in the previous years recently do or put money into a smaller, AA side-scrolling release. It's pretty rare for them. So this might be a step in a new direction. I'll be buying that game day one because I want to encourage that sort of behavior, those passion projects that they've got the stuff, they've got the talent, and they definitely should allow them to just have a little bit of reign. I understand they don't have the sort of budget that Xbox has, but I like Xbox's model where it's like, you want to make a game, go make that game. I understand they do need to continue on with Assassin's Creed. Absolutely. Gruder, are you feeling more positive about the direction of Ubisoft and what they're sort of aiming for, especially with the Star Wars Prince of Persia? I'd like to see the Prince of Persia remake. That's what we thought we were getting. But when I saw the side scroller, I wasn't mad. What are your thoughts on Ubisoft's new direction?
Yes. So I think the direction they're heading in, it's promising, but the jury's out a little bit with gamers just simply because they did double down a lot on their successes to the point where they didn't dilute the franchises in terms of content and longevity, but they watered it down in the fact that they made everything that little bit too generic. It became like fast food. They'd pump out Far Cry, the next year would be Assassin's Creed, and rinse and repeat. And a lot of the games started to feel more or less like a reskin than a new game, and they were just bloated beyond sort of even wanting to complete them. They became like map games, and it was like a chore to really get through them, to the point where a lot of people didn't even, like a couple of you guys alluded to, didn't even bother to complete Valhalla. And I'm now at the point with those quote unquote map games that I look at that maps and the icons all over the screen and I just go, ugh. Can I just go and find that stuff myself? Why do you need to tell me where everything is? And I was getting burnt out. But to answer your question, yes, it is promising, the direction that they're looking like they're heading in. They need to win back a little bit of that faith with some more streamlined, linear, and more focused games, which it looks like they're trying to do. But like Umbra was saying, some of their IP that they have is astounding. Like, we need to see a bit of that come back, and I'm all for it. But I'll tell you what, all will be forgiven. Ubisoft, all will be forgiven if you just put Ubisoft Plus into Game Pass. Bring it on.
Not going to happen. X Defiant is actually looking okay as well, and look to have a very solid beta launching with some enthusiasm behind it. So I think that they might have something there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I played the beta and I thought it was okay. I don't think it's going to be a COD killer. There was people talking COD killer there, but I don't see it. But I'm pretty overall happy with the direction that Ubisoft is taking. It is one of the big three in the industry, right? So when you're looking at your AAAs, you want to get quality from these guys. And I was a little bit worried, especially when they announced Splinter Cell with what they were doing at the time.
Yeah.
So to see them sort of pivot and start to give us, I think, more what we've been asking for, I think that's a definite positive. And I want to end the show on a positive and go to the outros. Colt, thank you for jumping in. It's been a long time. It's great to have you back. Obviously, let the people know where they can find you and what you're up to in the next week. And your show's coming up on your Monday, I think, right?
Yeah. Rand's gonna run over my show because he missed his today. So many podcasts in the scene, don't you love it? I like how we all gonna get together and work together. He was on my show last week, and yeah, it's gonna be good. I don't know what I'm gonna do for content. I would like to make something, but maybe I'll just play video games. Is that okay? Maybe I'll just do that.
That's a lot.
Remnant 2 Cult will play, mate. It's such a good
I
game.
need to. You've never steered me wrong. After all, even though you don't know what you're talking about, you've never steered me wrong.
Colt, be nice.
Yes. No, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on, guys. Feel like we get to do this regardless, so I'm glad.
Yeah. I don't get to do it very often because I've been working so much, but hopefully that's going to drop off. So you will see me more on Xbox parties coming up. Doom Cutie, another fantastic show. Let people know where they can find you and what you'll be up to after the show.
Hey guys, oh my goodness, thank you so much. And Colt, what a surprise. So lovely to have you. Chat's always on fire as usual. I love being on Xbox Infinite. It's always a great time. This week, I don't know, I've been a little bit more low key. I haven't been really jumping into any parties or anything like that. So if you haven't seen me around, it's more of a me. It's me, not you. But after this, I will have my own podcast. If you haven't heard it, Confessions of a Gamer Girl podcast. I've got a really awesome guest this week. She has a massive retro collection. So if you are interested in people's collections, retro gaming, that kind of thing, oh my goodness, she is amazing. Emily, she's on Instagram, One Up Emily. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait. I'll see you guys in about 50 minutes.
Absolutely. And Cutie, before I move on to the next outro, I just wanted to ask, we got a question from Udani Kozada, and I think this is more up your alley. He's with the $5 super chat. He said, people on X, Twitter, has started smoking what the ponies do and boldly stated that Australia's treasure, Margot Robbie, is mid. He said, discuss. Do you think she was mid? I'm pretty sure you've seen Barbie.
I have seen Barbie.
Was she mid?
She's not. She was not mid. And if you think she's mid, you might need some glasses, buddy.
Oh.
I would 110% agree with that. And you guys, again, I'll just say, if you want to find anyone's links, you can head down to the description. We're all there, guests and panel. Garuda Intruder, thanks for coming back on the show, man. Loved having you on, as we always do, even though you're now a PC fraud. Please let the people know where they can find you and what you'll be playing coming up.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit hard to find because I don't have any content yet. I keep saying that. But I'm on Twitter, Garuda Intruder, but the best place you can find me is here. Like, I feel like once every 3 or 4 shows I'm on now. So I get excited every time you ask me to come on. I love the show and I love all you guys. Just good, genuine people. The Xbox community's been so welcoming. I sort of just appeared out of nowhere on Twitter and, I'm not a fraud at all. Xbox is a platform. Thank you very much. It's no longer just a console. So shove it. Colt, brother, this is the first time I've ever done a podcast with you. You've probably seen me on some of your stuff before. I really love your content, brother. So keep that up. It's been really good. Like, it's a little bit surreal, if I'm going to be honest with you, to sit here and do a podcast with you after watching your content for so long. So yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, man, just keep inviting me back, Risk. I love it, and I'll keep bringing the salt for the Xbox fans, bro.
Absolutely. I'll definitely invite you back as soon as you buy back your Xbox Series X Infinite. Another fantastic week. Let people know where they can find you, what you'd be up to, and what's going on with you in the next week and your show, The Fix.
Yes, you can find me, of course, on Twitter or X now. Xbox has bought Twitter. Infinite Umber or Umber Infinite. You'll find me either way. Of course, on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern, you'll find me on the Xbox Factor with Boom and Daniel McGee and Retry. And on Thursdays, my show, The Fix, of course, at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern and time. And you guys, I put my link in the chat as well. So if you have not subscribed to it, brother, please do. We had, like I said, we had an interesting show this week where we kind of vamped on things. Honestly, it just kind of happened that way. But I'm working, at least I'm going to work with him, and we're going to come up with some ideas outside of it just to speak on gaming and whatever topic it might be. Wrestling. When news is slow, so we'll have things to put together as well. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest challenge, at least for me, with content creation. Because sometimes you go to the shows, you see this, and it's like, all right, what the hell are you all talking about right now? So I feel like we got to put some stuff, quality stuff together that people want to hear and be a part of as the community. So, Talos, happy birthday, brother! I didn't know it was your birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, bro.
Yeah.
Quick, him. He'll start singing.
Oh, happy birthday.
Yes.
I've got the figure over the mute already.
Yeah, man. Go
Happy birthday.
As soon as he said, now he's muted.
Happy birthday!
I still got that one from Cuties.
Happy birthday
Mute.
to you.
Mute.
Go ahead, Colt. Take it away, Colt. Step in.
Look,
No.
Jedi Knight, Peter, another fantastic show.
Sorry to say this.
Jump in.
My bad. Garuda and Colt, thanks for joining us.
Oh no,
of
man!
course.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure.
All
Sorry
good.
about
Happy birthday to Talos. I did not know it was your birthday, man. He's been a long-time supporter. You're an absolute champion. Jedi Knight Pete. I saw someone in the chat say, when is Pete going to start his own podcast? He's the only one in the panel who doesn't have one. And Umbra's response was, we get enough of Pete's bad takes here. Love the response. Completely agree. Let the people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to in the next week.
I will be on my Remnant kick. I absolutely love that game. Thank you, Colt. Always welcome to jump in, brother. It's always, we were in a party yesterday, man. We were basically doing the same thing, talking gaming. Gruder, PC Master Race, bro. What the hell, man? Like, honestly, brother, you got to get you back on
I
Xbox.
support you.
Hold up,
Gruder,
Pete. I don't know if you
worry.
noticed, but we didn't fight today. So
No, bro.
our
How cool
relationship
is
is
that, man?
continuing
Yeah.
to blossom and flourish, and I'm really happy.
Yeah.
Riskit wasn't
Cool,
cruel and
honestly.
he didn't pit us against each other this time, and I'm so happy that our relationship continues to grow.
I'll work on it.
In all
work on
honesty, I had to take too much crap from Umber and Riskit today, so I didn't have enough time to
deserved
fight
it.
with you
It
today.
was
But,
deserved.
See, Udani's got it right. Jedi Knight Peter the GOAT. Thank you, brother. And to Talos Ray, special thank you to you, brother. Happy birthday for tomorrow, mate. You've been here since day one, brother. So peace and love to you. Peace and love to everybody.
Oh my God! So sorry, I got completely distracted by a Margot Robbie gif in our private
That's
chat.
completely the wrong movie, Riskit. That's the wrong movie, mate.
What is up with that?
It does not matter. Look, it's an absolutely fantastic show this week. You guys in the chat are absolutely amazing. Colt, thank you again. Garuda, also thank you again for coming through on the show. We had a great one this week, and we will see you all next week, 8 p.m. EST Fridays. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, share us out, all that sort of stuff. As I stall while I find the end stream button, and there it is. Bye.
You Xbox better.
Better.
See ya.